Okay, I want to complete a page for these two pictures using this background paper, and it's going to complement this page that I just completed. So I have the same collection except instead of the 6x6 I'm using the 12x12 papers, and I want to use some of the same embellishments on this. Two different stories from the same day. They're going to go side by side in my album, but it's not exactly a two-page spread. So what I have are two 3x5 photos, one portrait and one landscape, and I did a layout a few months ago using that arrangement, so I decided just to use the same sketch again. And so I have the sketch in a block here. When I did this the first time, I think I either did cardstock or some kind of very simple B-sided paper for the background. This time I'm using this really bold print for the background. So for the lines down here, which are either washi tape or pattern paper, I'm going to use some really simple pattern papers. And I've looked at the 6x6 pattern papers for that. I've got these two which were used on that other page, and then I've got a couple of other colors here and the same washi tape that was used on those other pages. Instead of doing the 3 embellishments down here, I can do that, or I can do something different. It doesn't have to be 3 embellishments down there. It can be anything that I want to put in this embellishment group, and of course I have an opportunity for some brads. So I had some brads from before that I think I used one out of, so I may use a couple more of those out of that set. I also used some of these enamel dots. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work enamel dots into this. I may or may not do that. One thing I'm pretty sure that I do want to use are these wood hearts. I used 3, or I used a couple of the small ones on this page, so I thought this would be a good place to do the big one, and I might just do that as a single embellishment down here rather than the idea of doing 3. I also used these, so I thought I might put the wood heart on one of these embellishments and maybe put some of that twine around it like I did before as well. So that's just another idea of ways of kind of incorporating the same embellishments with a different story. Now, one thing I won't be able to repeat is lettering. The lettering that I used for the number 55 on the other page, I have so little of this left, so I really can't make any words out of that or anything that's going to work out really well for words. So what I did, let's get this back over here. I've got to trim this down and make a block to go here. But I found, here they are, some letters. These were just plain raw chipboard, and I wanted to match this really dark color, and on the other one before I had used paint to do that because I was working with something that was white to start with. Because this was chipboard, when I colored it using my rich raspberry marker, it came out a lot darker color and not real bright and bold. So I think that's going to work out well for one of my words, and then for the other word I think I'm going to use the cricket and do the same kind of deal that I did on the other layout. So I need to get that word together and get these things cropped down, and then we'll start doing some embellishment. So I have my photos and journaling framed, and I did some die cut letters with one of the techniques from my cardstock class. Now for the bottom, I'm going to start laying out my embellishment here. I'm going to glue this on with glossy accents, and normally this stuff will hold anything, but as you'll see in a little bit, I have a little bit of trouble with it. I probably should have used hot glue, but I do get it glued in place, so I'm going to let that sit for a minute. And then let's look at some of the papers. I have a choice here of a pinkish colored paper, a couple of yellows, and then I have the washi tape I used on the previous layout. I really like that pink kind of paper. Between the two yellows, I decide to go with the same one that's on the other layout, the bolder one there on the bottom, and then use some of the other one on the top. First I'm going to put some washi tape over them so I can see how that's going to look. And I do like that appearance of how those are going to lay. Sometimes washi, it looks different because you can see the other colors through it. Now these only being 6 inches means that kind of tells me where the position of that embellishment is going to have to be. And I only have one embellishment on this layout, whereas I had 3 on the sketch. And you can see where my heart fell off, and I had to put a little more glue on there. And I did get the thing to adhere just fine. It took a little bit more work. I'm going to use my ruler here to help me line these things up. And one of the things I figure out is that I have it a little crooked and have to make some adjustments. Probably should have started with the ruler. And I'll trim off that excess over on the left when I get everything in place. All right, and up at the top, I'm going to use the pink paper up there as well, and then the yellow, I chose the little dot of yellow instead of the darker yellow, just to have a little bit of variation between the two sections. It doesn't bother me to not repeat the exact paper as long as I repeat the colors. Then adding the washi tape with a nice neat trim on the edge, since everything is kind of creating a blunt edge there to frame the embellishment. I'm going to add a little trim up or a little washi up at the top as well. Sorry about my head, I got to get that on there straight. And I'm ready to put this in place and add some twine around it. This is that Lawn Fawn Trimmings. I love their twine. It has a nice texture to it, and it's always multicolored. I'm just wrapping it around itself and then tying it in a bow. And there's good adhesive already on the back of that cork piece. Now I'm ready to pick some brads, and I have these from My Mind's Eye that I used on my other complimentary page. I'm just not really sure about them. We'll kind of come back to those in a moment. I'd like to work in some of these enamel dots, and I think that my heart needs some color. It's just a little bit too much neutral down there for me. So I'm adding a few of the gold enamel dots like I did on the other page, but this time on top of the embellishment. And I end up moving them over to the right so that they won't be on the same side as the brad. Be a little more balanced. And I wasn't really satisfied with the My Mind's Eye brad, so I found some from, I think these actually came from the dollar store. I can't remember. They're a brand name, but I can't remember if they're Making Memories or what they are. But anyway, I have some other brads there that matched in color. And now I'm starting to compare this to the other layout. Okay, I'm happy with the page now, so let's take a look at the final page. Followed the sketch pretty closely, except that instead of using 3 embellishments down at the bottom, I just used a single embellishment, and since I had a bolder paper for the background, used some fairly simple papers for those strips and a little bit of the washi tape. Worked in a few enamel dots on top of the embellishment. And one thing I found after I got all this together is this piece of flare with the heart on it. So I've considered using that instead of the brad. Right now I still have the brad on it. So if you like the little piece of flare better, leave me a comment. I can certainly change it. I can go either way. It's just yet another different kind of heart. So let's compare the two pages, since they're going to be side by side in the album, using a lot of the same product from Webster's pages, and then some similar elements with the hearts and the brads, and the same kind of wording there, die cut. So if you haven't seen the other layout, there will be a link to that here at the end of the video, and thank you for watching.